Thank you. Hey. So maybe the subtitle is a little overblown. They're not really secrets. I tell them to anyone who asks. But I think some of them can save people's lives. All right, let's see if this thing works. The life-saving secret that makes this work. There it is. Okay, hey. All right, so there I am. Pete already introduced me, but there I am. It's my Northeastern email if you want to email me at the college, and then my Medium handle, because I blog a lot about this stuff. You might be thinking, and a couple of people have asked me in the audience, why did this man come all the way from Boston to here? And the answer is I'm just a crazy evangelist about these things, as you'll see. Some of my past work, again, Pete said some of the stuff, and I'm showing it to you not to be like, wow, look at the clients. I'm sure plenty of people here have similar resumes or better ones, but more to demonstrate that when your client is hiring you for an intervention that is about somebody's life or livelihood, like with the Red Cross, like with like Sidekick or the United Nations, then there's a certain expectation that thing that you made for them will work. So I'm a little bit obsessed with efficacy and measurement. And to that effect, down. Yes, okay. So I don't want to make you wait till the end for the secrets. So I'll tell you the big secret up front, which is knowledge does not equal behavior. And I'm sure a lot of you are like, well, obviously. But you'd be surprised how many interventions or apps their focus is, I will teach you this idea. And once you really understand it, then you will change your behavior in your life. And some of you might be like, well, yeah, you need to know things in order to change. And you might be a little incredulous about this. So here's the proof. It is December. Very soon, if not already, you will be going off to your Christmas parties or whatever holiday that you celebrate. And you'll notice that there might be a plate that looks like this that some poor person was asked to bring. And you might also notice that there's a plate that looks more like that rapidly vanishes, despite the fact that everyone at the party knows that the stuff on this plate is very good for you, and the stuff on that plate is very bad for you. And if you're the person at the party saying, hey, don't you know that the stuff on this plate is very good for you, and that plate is very bad for you, and yet I'm watching you with my eyes take brownies off of the plate and eat them nonetheless? Why? They'll ask you, are you an alien? Because obviously, this plate is more desirable. We do it anyway, even though we know it's bad for us. Case in point. Okay, so this is a case study that I like to talk about. I did this with UNICEF, the Red Cross, the Engagement Lab, and Right to Play Ghana. This was a project that we did called Handwashing with a Nonce. It is an intervention designed to help school children in Ghana change their behavior around hand washing, specifically to wash their hands with soap at certain specific times. So this was an in-person experience. It took place over a few weeks. As far as I know, it's still practiced. I talked recently to somebody that works at UNICEF Ghana, and they talked about the project, and that was good to hear because this was some years back. But we have this problem. Obviously, everyone here knows that we should wash our hands, and I'm sure we've been washing our hands throughout the day. And it turns out that people in Ghana also knew that you should wash your hands, and yet they didn't. And the first challenge was to figure out why. So we went there and talked to people in person and did workshopping and brought a lot of different stakeholders together. So, and we asked this question. So you might have parents of children, you might have teachers, water and sanitation experts, doctors, healthcare experts, and they all have a slightly different answer, or sometimes a very different answer. So a teacher might say, we don't have the right curriculum to teach this. A water and sanitation expert might say, we don't have hand washing stations in the right place. Whereas a parent might say, we cannot afford soap, right? And these are all true in all different aspects of the same problem, okay? So this helped us synthesize that knowledge. From there, we had to ask another question, which is, how do you play? And that might seem obvious, right? Everyone plays, but the answers that we got were surprising. And maybe this shows my nativity as a young game designer, but when I say, show me your games, as like I'm at a university in Boston, we talk about our formal game definitions and our frameworks and everything. And, well, it needs to have an objective, it needs to, but when we said, show us your games, they would do things like sing or dance or act, right? Things that we wouldn't consider formally a game in like a university room. And I've changed my song on that a bit. But that was very enlightening and showed me kind of how play is very personal and not universal. Just because you like something and play a certain way doesn't mean that everybody else will. So we have this problem, right? It's institutional, it's cultural, and it's logistical. So when we have playing games, so then I'll make a Venn diagram with these. So how do those overlap? What's the problem, and what can we solve through play, right? Because no matter how good a game is, it's never going to build a new hand washing station. But we can focus on the cultural problem because the reasons for the lack of hand washing are cultural, right? They're misconceptions, they're habits passed down, mother to child, generation to generation. They're difficult to change just by asking somebody to. So although we can't build a hand washing station, maybe we can show somebody when, why, and how to wash hands with soap. Okay, so I'll show you a brief video of some of the people playing it. This is a play test. Will the video start? Yes.
Fingers and thumbs. Fingers and back and in between. Back and in between. Back and in nails raised down. Water and soap. Water and soap. Water and soap. Fingers and thumbs. Fingers and thumbs. Fingers and thumbs. Back and in between. Back and in between. Back and in between. Water and soap. Water and soap. Water and soap.
River bank, and he was looking at the boats coming, and he waved at them, and the fishermen were coming, and they were singing a song, and they were paddling. And do you know the song they were singing?
He's making this up as he goes.
Chichiribum, tatiribum, eya zewaya. Let's go. Sisiribum, tatiribum, eya zewaya. Amatosa, tosa, tosa. Amatosa, tosa, tosa. Amatosa, tosa, tosa.
Okay, you come here and you ask me. So I want someone to come and ask for food.
To come and ask you.
Water and soap. Water and soap. Fingers and thumbs. Fingers and thumbs. Back and in between. Nails raised down.
Nails raised down. Nails raised down.
It's my favorite part. Okay, so you saw a bunch of game prototypes. None of them ended up looking exactly like that, but some of them ended up looking a lot like that. You can see that we adapted a lot of traditional Ghanaian folk games, traditional Ghanaian folk songs, and Ghanaian characters, especially Ananse, who, if you know of any African folklore, he's probably the character you know. He's the spider, the trickster. So we wrote all these stories and songs with a lot of help and co-design from our partners on the ground. And the results, so yes, we increased hand washing knowledge, which is good. So let me stop for a second. We got the contract to do the measurements as well, which almost never happens. So because it's expensive and time-consuming. The measurements cost as much as the game. So yes, we increased hand-washing knowledge. Yes, people in the intervention schools showed a greater intention to hand wash with soap. But most importantly, we saw an 8.25% decrease in stomach illness versus the control schools, which is significant. And since I followed up, and it's down 1.75% year over year after that, compounding. And I can't take full credit for that. There's other interventions in the area, but I like to think that that hand washing with the Nanse helped. So the question is, why? Like, why did it work? Because I've measured other interventions that didn't work, and a lot of famous interventions or games that do get measured don't work once measured, or even have the opposite effect of what's intended, which is troubling if you are asking somebody to give you money that could literally be used to feed somebody in a humanitarian crisis to make a game, right? And it should be troubling to anyone that's working in this field, because we don't always understand the consequences of the systems we design. So why? Maybe I'll circle back to an answer on that. But first, I want to talk about digital therapeutics, which is a lot of what I'm doing these days. So you might say, okay, that was an in-person game. It happened once for the school, but you have digital therapeutics that have all of these benefits. So these might seem obvious, but the product is in your pocket. It's with you all the time. We can notify players all the time when it's time for them to act, right? Like, instead of them having to remember to hand wash, we can remind them, which is always good. They don't have to remember. And lastly, you can A/B test and make iterative changes that will change every day if you want, that are tested with all the data generated by the app. So this is like the promise of digital therapy. It's also much more scalable. However, the average retention rate on digital therapeutics and health-related phone apps is only 10%. Why? Why is that? Why? Why do they suck? Okay, so I'm going to get into some of the reasons for this. So first problem is the content sucks. If you've ever used some of these apps, it's very finger-waggy, and don't you know that the brownie was the bad choice? It's like, well, obviously, I already knew that. It's like, yeah. So it's like, even if it's new information, like the tone is like benign but scoldy. And then like you see this graphic from the World Health Organization. I'm sorry if anyone here is from WHO, but it's like, do you want to be healthy? Just do this. It's like, oh, just these 12 things that I have to do every single day and remember, and this incomprehensible graphic that represents them. The content is not good. So this is a way that play can help build engagement and retention by having genuinely fun and delightful content, right? If you look back at Ananse, the tone was not scoldy or finger waggy or telling the kids they were bad for not washing their hands. It was celebrating when they did it right and telling a fun story. I'll tell you one later in this presentation to make it more, make the content more accessible and relatable to them. Okay, 2. And apologies if you're a doctor. So a bragging right that a lot of digital therapeutics and health apps have is designed by doctors. This is a real one that I pulled off the web. I covered the name to protect the innocent. But people say it's designed by doctors. Well, how are you going to have a doctor design a problem, a solution to a problem that is the problem that they currently are, right? Although I'm guessing not many of us are physicians, we've all been to the doctor. It's not very enjoyable, the entire experience. It's very focused on them telling you what they think you need to know. And maybe they think, okay, well, we'll tell them what they need to know, and that's the most important thing. And it's this like banking theory of education, except we'll throw some badges in or something, right? And that's designed by doctors. Instead, try designed by designers. We know a little bit more about that. Not to say that like the therapy has to work too, but engagement is the designer's job. and the doctor needs to be in the consulting role, and the designer needs to be in the main role. And when you look back at Ananse, we weren't having the sanitation expert design the intervention. We designed the intervention with people from UNICEF and Right to Play who understood the kids and how to play with them, and game designers who are trained and have a lot of experience and knowledge about fun, right? So there you have it. Last one, never talking to users. So everyone claims to be user-centered and user-focused, but in reality, they're typically not, especially when you have limited resources and time. The big mistakes you can make are not doing the upfront research because you want to move fast and break things because you heard about Facebook, and you think that getting it to the user fast and then iterating as you go is the thing to do. But I prefer to not fail in the first place. It saves a lot of time and money. And then there's like HIPAA regulations and other reasons that you might not be able to talk to the exact users, which is a problem that needs to be solved. And then you have, over time, users drop, and you want to know why. So you have data, you can look at where they drop, but then you need the qualitative data to tell you why they dropped. And you go to talk to the users, but the people that you can reach are the people that are still using the app. So they're not the people that dropped. So they can never tell you why they dropped because they didn't drop. They're the special super user in that 10% that will use your app until they die no matter what because they love checking off lists or whatever. But you need to do the extra work, and it is an extra expense to reach the actual churned users, and they will tell you the real problems with your app, and you need to let them be brutal to you. Okay, so let's go back. Why did hand washing with Ananse work so well? I had a lot of theories, right? I had my theories of when I designed it back in 2014, I think. Maybe it was procedural rhetoric. Some of you might have heard that term before. Others, it'll be gobbledygook. But basically, it's this popular idea that a game persuades through its system. That if the rules and the actions are matching real life, that when the player plays with it and finds the boundaries and problems, that they'll educate themselves through play, okay? So maybe that's why it worked, because some of the games, including one I'm going to show you, used that principle. Okay, maybe that. Maybe it's just the power of play. That the games were so fun that the players had a positive reaction to it, or maybe play puts you into some sort of receptive mental state or space that allows you to learn and grow in a more profound way. Maybe. Maybe it was the memorable narrative about Ananse, that's a relatable, funny, memorable story that ties it all together, and when they're thinking about hand washing, they think about Ananse and they remember it. Could be. Or maybe it was just our methodology, right? I described it before. It was very user-centered. We went there, we played with everybody, we designed with them, we iterated, sending video back and forth with our Ghanaian counterparts, making things, and there was a lot of trouble, but it was quite effective, right? So maybe it was the methodology itself. However, I assumed that it was the methodology, but I've since kind of thought that the methodology that I describe is necessary but not sufficient. Because in other games that I've designed, that I've always used this methodology once I've identified it, because it's so powerful in engaging people and giving them what they want. But if just giving somebody the game that they want was enough to change somebody's health, then Super Mario Brothers would be the best health intervention in like the history of mankind, right? And it's not, like clearly it's not. Although, keep your ears open, because there was a study recently that showed that playing Super Mario Odyssey was more effective treating depression than depression medication. Wonder why that is. Okay. So the methodology works, but doesn't solve the problem itself. All right. So I promised you that I would tell you a story and that we'd play a game. It's now time to do that. And I hope that playing this and the story will help make all this make more sense. So I'll tell you the story, then we'll play the game, because that's how it goes in the intervention. So transport yourself to rural Ghana and listen to the story. So everyone knows Anansi, the spider god, the trickster. And he always wants a little bit more than what he has. And he wants a little bit more than what other people have. So one day, the Yam Festival was going to happen, which is an important holiday that everyone in Ghana knows about. So of course you know about it because you're in Ghana. And what happens on that day is everybody makes their best dishes out of yam. And it's kind of like Thanksgiving and kind of like Christmas, right? So everybody cooks the best food they can, then everybody gathers and it's a huge festival and everybody gets to eat. But Anansi was thinking to himself, I'm smaller than Brother Tiger and Brother Elephant, and they always get in front of me, and they always get the food before me, and I don't like that. So I'm going to come up with a plan, because I know something they don't. And here's what I will do. On the way to the festival, on the way to the village, on the road, I will stop, and I will go to the bathroom, and I will not wash my hands, right? Or sometimes you tell it that he finds a piece of dung, like animal dung, and coats his hands and wipes it off, but does not wash with soap, okay? So now he has these nasty hands. And what he does is he stands in the road. And as people come down the road, he says, hello, I thought it would be wonderful to greet you as you come down the road. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And Brother Tiger would say, oh, thank you, Anansi. That's very nice to greet me. And then Anansi would say, do you know what I think would be even better? Because so many people are coming, and I can't shake everyone's hands. And it was so nice when I just shook your hand. You wait here with me. And as people come, we will both shake their hands, and we'll say the same to them. And Brother Tiger's like, that sounds like a nice thing to do. So this is what they do. He shakes Brother Tiger's hand, they shake 2 hands, they shake more hands, and eventually Anansi has infected the hands of every single guest at the Yam Festival. And then he washes his hands, and he's not going to be sick, but everybody else is going to be too sick to eat. However, when he finally gets to the festival, after all this handshaking, he realizes his fatal mistake because even the cooks got sick. So nobody got anything. So he had to sit there hungry and alone on the festival. So Anansi, hoist by his own petard. Okay, so that's the story. And then we have a game about the story. So can I please get the first 2 rows to join me up here on stage? Thank you. I have some hand sanitizer for you.
Can I have a lot of it? If I'm going to be shaking these guys' hands, thanks.
There, enjoy that. Rub it in. Get nice and sanitized. A little for you. Thank you. There for Tom. Great. You're welcome. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're gonna play the game now. One of the games that you saw in the prototype video. I can tell you that this game did not make it into the intervention, and we'll talk about why. Okay. So everybody's hand sanitized? Okay. So how this is gonna work is one of you will be a Anansi. Does anyone want to be a Anansi? I don't know. I hear you're a disruptor. I hear you're a disruptor in this. Yeah. So okay, this is our good faith Anansi. Okay, everybody else is going to be guests at the Yam Festival, except Tom here, who is going to be the cook. Okay. So when I say go, we will all start shaking hands. So. We'll just mill around, and I'll go welcome, 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 shake hands. Welcome, 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 shake hands. And you'll shake hands and shake hands and shake hands. Now, at any time, you, Anansi, can double squeeze the hand of the person that you want to infect. And from then on, you will double squeeze everyone's hands, and anyone who's been double squeezed must also double squeeze any hands that they shake. So the infection will be spread that way, okay? Also, at any time, you, Anansi, can say, stop, okay? Once you've stopped, we will count the people who are infected. And your goal is to infect as many people as possible without infecting the cook, okay? All right, we all get it? Okay. Then go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Shake hands. 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 Stop. Okay. Raise your hand if you're infected. Everybody! It's everyone! Okay. All right, go ahead and have a seat. Have a seat. Thank you, everyone. Round of applause for our players. Okay. Too late, too late. So it was everybody. It's almost always everybody because people don't really grok how fast this spreads. Even in a much larger room, it's usually everybody. And you might say, wow, that is a fun game that really shows how diseases spread and why it's so important to wash hands, right? It matches up with the story. Good. So why didn't we include that game in the intervention?
Distracting.
Distracting? What do you mean distracting?
It's fun, but the message gets lost quite quickly. It's just like, hey, we all got to be great fun, but it doesn't necessarily explain the end goal, which is to have washed your hands first.
Yeah, yes. So the game does not show the action that we want them to take, right? Which I think is a crucial piece. Additionally, when we played it with the kids in Ghana, even though we'd played them with the same age kids in Boston, they did not like it. It was not fun for them. And we tried a lot of different versions. There was a version where Ananse was hidden, and people had to guess who Ananse was. Yeah, so it's like a hidden role game. And there was the version that we played there. There was a version with Ananse and Ananse's son and the cook for a larger group. And like we tried all these things, and they just didn't like it. Like they don't have hidden role games. The double squeeze confused them. Because they don't have a game like that, right? Even though we used like the amato, satosa, like that you heard in the video to kind of tie it together, it didn't work for them. So we cut it. And eventually we replaced it with, you guys know Sharks and Minnows, the tag game, where like there's a shark in the middle and then all the minnows line up and they run and you got to tag them, right? That's what we did, right? We didn't design that. That was a playground game. But the kids knew it and they liked it and they had fun. So this was an example of our methodology, catching a problem and then solving it with more user-centered design, even though it hurt my ego a little bit to cut my great fun game and replace it with a tag game that I played in kindergarten. But it was better. It was better for the kids. That said, I suspect that we didn't need a game at all. I suspect that for what we needed to do, which is just show why to wash your hands, the story would have sufficed. Because it's memorable, it's funny, it's gross, and there's a debrief around it about like what does it feel like to get sick and have you been sick and all of that, and like I think the connection is already clear, right? So this might be a game we didn't need in the first place. It also teaches with its system, right? The knowledge has to be surfaced from the system, which is actually, I think, harder to do and less persuasive, especially because it's modeling the problem, not the solution, like you said. Okay. All right. So I want to talk about two last things. So the power of feedback. One of the great things about games is that they give you feedback. And feedback could be points, right? It could be sound and animation. It could be a rewarding picture, like Duo here doing his reps. The point is, when you do the thing that the game is asking you to do, you get a nice little reward and it feels good. So yes, games are very good at this, but what does that matter? So once I started working in healthcare more formally, I started working with a lot of behavioral scientists and learning about different behavioral frameworks. So this is one of my favorite ones. This is the FOG model. It looks complicated, but it's actually quite simple. Basically, all it says is, if you want to do something, you will do it if able when triggered. For instance, I'm driving down the street. I see Dunkin' Donuts sign, that's the trigger. I want it because I feel great when I drink a Dunkin' Donuts coffee because I am from Boston, Massachusetts. And that's what we do. So of course I want it. So if I can get it, I will. However, today I'm late for work. So I can't stop. I don't have the ability. But they have a drive-through and it's empty. So I can, right? So this is an example of them increasing my ability to allow me to do the thing that I want to do when triggered, right? So if you can increase somebody's ability by lowering the obstacles, that's much easier and more effective than increasing their motivation, okay? However, the weird part of the model, and the part that trips people up the most, is that after you practice the new habit you're trying to build, you must celebrate it, because that is what makes you feel good. And one of B.J. Fogg's maxims, that I should have written B.J. Fogg on here, the book is Tiny Habits. One of the maxims is we change when we feel good, not when we feel bad. It's very hard to scold somebody into changing. But if you can celebrate their change, they will change. And the problem with this is, okay, my habit I'm trying to build is taking out the garbage on time every day, even though I don't like it. So in order to do this, I need to celebrate the fact that I took out the garbage, which might be like, I take it out and then I immediately imagine winning the Tour de France and like crossing and like everybody cheering. But like you feel like an idiot when you do that. Like a lot of people really struggle celebrating a stupid thing, like putting the remote back on the coffee table instead of putting it on the couch, right? Like winning, I just won WrestleMania, right? Like it's hard. It's hard to do. But games do it automatically because they have this thing called feedback and this idea called fiero, the amazing feeling when you try to do something for a long time and then finally do it, like kicking the soccer goal, right? You try and you try and you try and then you do it and it feels amazing. And that's what games are so good at. And in that video that I showed you, you remember, because it was just a couple minutes ago, the last portion that I said was my favorite, with the kids playing the how game, how to wash your hands. So that game, they would pass stones, and the stone passing game selected runners who would then run as fast as they could to a hand washing station. And once there, they would race to do their hand wash, the proper steps in order before their opponent. And it was boys versus girls, which was the idea of the man that I pointed out earlier, not my idea. Because I would never, as an American, think it was a good idea to make boys play against girls. But he knew that they were really motivated by this competition. So you could see, right? You could see in the tests when they won, like that explosion of joy. And when it feels that good to wash your hands, of course, the next time you see soap next to the sink, you're going to wash them, right? So I am convinced that that is the reason that hand washing with Ananse worked when other games that I've made and others have made that use some of the same principles and methodologies when measured didn't work. And I didn't know this, right? It was an accident, kind of. I knew that it had to be fun, right? But I didn't understand this yet. So whenever I'm designing a behavioral health intervention or any kind of behavior change intervention, this is always on my mind. Did I have anything else to say? I don't think so. Question time.